Elon Musk agrees to $3 billion deal to buy CNN. Vows to fix the media one network at a time. It began with a tweet at 3 a.m. while the world slept. Elon Musk's fingers hovered over his phone screen. The blue light illuminated his face. In the darkness of his Austin home office, outside a gentle Texas rain tapped against the windows, providing a rhythmic backdrop to his thoughts. Time to pull the trigger, he whispered to himself. He typed quickly, decisively, as he had countless times before. But this tweet would change everything. For too long, the media has prioritized sensationalism over truth. Proud to announce, I've acquired CNN for $3 billion. We'll focus on accuracy, integrity, and fair reporting. The era of biased narratives is over. Time to fix the media, one network at a time. Musk placed his phone face down on his desk and leaned back in his chair. Staring at the ceiling, the rain continued its gentle patter. But in his mind, he could already hear the storm brewing. By sunrise, the world would be different. His phone began vibrating almost immediately. First, a text from his assistant. It's done then. Then a call from his lawyer, Elon. We agreed to wait until market open. Then, notifications, thousands of them, retweets, quotes, likes, analysis. The digital avalanche had begun. By dawn, the tweet had amassed over 2 million interactions. #Musk Media was trending worldwide. Cable news network scrambled to respond to news about one of their own. Wall Street analysts were issuing hasty recommendation. CNN employees were texting each other frantically, wondering about their futures. And Elon Musk finally drifted off to sleep, a slight smile on his face, as the world began to process his latest disruption. 3 weeks earlier, Musk had been sitting in the SpaceX facility in Boca Chica, watching a test launch when the idea crystallized. He'd been contemplating media acquisition for months, frustrated by what he perceived as unfair coverage of his companies and distorted narratives about world events. What if he had news to his closest advisor, Jared Burkle, as they watched the rocket ascend? What if we just bought one of them? Burkle had learned long ago that with Musk, there was no such thing as an idle musing. Which one would make the most sense? He asked, already opening his tablet to take notes. CNN, Musk replied without hesitation. It's struggling, but has brand recognition, global reach, infrastructure we could leverage. And it's ripe for transformation. Burkle nodded, typing rapidly. I'll have a team run preliminary numbers by morning. Make it confidential, Musk added. No leaks. We'll face enough resistance when this goes public. The following days were a flurry of secret meetings, financial projections, and strategic planning. Musk assembled a small team of trusted advisors, including media consultants, tech innovators, and financial experts. They worked around the clock, building a case for what would be one of the most controversial media acquisitions in history. They'll say I'm trying to control the narrative, Musk told his team during the late-night strategy session. They'll say I'm a danger to democracy. But they're already saying that. The difference is now, we'll have a platform to demonstrate what truly objective news can look like. The acquisition team moved with remarkable speed and secrecy. Initial overtures to CNN's parent company were met with skepticism but not outright rejection. The network had been struggling with ratings and identity in a fragmented media landscape. A $3 billion offer, well above market value, proved difficult to dismiss. They think I'm overpaying, Musk had told Burkle after a tense negotiation session. They don't understand that. The value isn't in what CNN is, but in what it could be. Maya Chen, a senior producer at CNN for 15 years, learned about the acquisition while preparing for her morning commute to the Atlanta headquarters. Her phone buzzed with a news alert, and she nearly dropped her coffee mug when she read the headline. This can't be real, she muttered, opening X to see Musk's announcement for herself. But there it was, along with mounting reaction from across the political spectrum. By the time Maya reached CNN Center, the building was buzzing with nervous energy. Security had been increased to handle the swarm of reporters gathered outside. Inside, employees huddled in small groups, speculating about their futures. I hear he's planning to fire half the staff, whispered a technical director. My cousin works at Twitter. I mean X, and said Musk. Completely destroyed workplace culture, added a graphics designer. Maya listened quietly, trying to process her own feelings. She had dedicated her career to journalism. To CNN specifically, the network wasn't perfect. No news organization was, but she believed in its mission. What would become of that mission under Musk? In Washington, D.C., legislators were already calling for hearings on media consolidation. Senator Elizabeth Warren issued a statement condemning the acquisition, his dangerous concentration of power in the hands of a man who has repeatedly demonstrated hostility toward journalism that challenges him. Conservative voices celebrated the news. Finally, a chance for balance at CNN, declared one prominent commentator. Musk understands that Americans are tired of being fed a one-sided narrative. On Wall Street, Tesla stock did briefly before recovering, as investors tried to gauge how this new venture might affect Musk's already stretched attention. CNN's parent company saw shares jump 17%. On news of the premium purchase price, social media platforms became battlegrounds of opinion. Hashtag boycott CNN competed with hashtag new CNN era for trending status. Journalists from other networks published think pieces analyzing what the acquisition might mean for press freedom and media independence. And in CNN newsrooms across the world, reporters and producers did what they were trained to do. They covered the story of their own uncertain future with as much objectivity as they could muster. 2 days after his announcement, Musk called an all-hands meeting at CNN's Atlanta headquarters. The auditorium was packed with nervous employees, while thousands more joined virtually from bureaus around the world. Musk walked onto the stage, dressed in his typical black t-shirt and jeans. A stark contrast to the business attire common in the network's executive ranks. He carried no notes, no prepared speech. "I'm not here to destroy CNN," he began, his voice echoing through the silent room. "I'm here to help it fulfill its potential." For the next 40 minutes, Musk outlined his vision for what he called CNN 2.0. He spoke about leveraging technology to enhance reporting, implementing AI-driven fact-checking in real time, and creating more interactive formats for viewer engagement. Imagine global town halls, where viewers from Nairobi to Nashville can participate equally, he said, growing animated as he paced the stage. Picture debates, where false claims are immediately flagged and corrected on screen in vision. A news network that doesn't tell you what to think, but gives you verified information, so you can decide for yourself. The room remained tense, but as Musk continued, some employees found themselves reluctantly intrigued by his ideas. Maya Chen, sitting in the third row, noted that much of what he described aligned with journalistic ideals she herself valued. "I know many of you fear for your jobs." Musk acknowledged, his tone softening. "Let me be clear, I don't plan mass layouts. What I want is for each of you to embrace this new direction. Those who share our commitment to truthful, fair reporting will thrive here. Those who prefer advocacy over journalism might be happier elsewhere." After the meeting, opinions among staff were divided. Some remained deeply skeptical, seeing Musk's words as empty promises that would give way to ideological purges. Others were cautiously optimistic, impressed by the technological innovations he proposed. He didn't say anything about editorial direction. Maya remarked to a colleague as they left the auditorium, "That's what worries me the most. Who decides what's truthful and fair in his vision?" Her colleague shrugged, "I guess we'll find out soon enough." The following months brought rapid changes to CNN. Musk appointed a transition team led by Jared Burke, and including respected journalists from outside the network, figures known for their independence rather than partisan leanings. The network's Atlanta headquarters became a laboratory of innovation. Engineers from Tesla and X joined CNN's technical teams to develop new broadcasting technologies. The traditional news desk was redesigned to incorporate interactive elements. A sophisticated AI system called FactStream was built to analyze statements in real time and provide viewers with relevant context and verification. Not all changes were technological. The new editorial charter emphasized factual reporting, with clear separation between news and analysis. Opinion segments were clearly labeled as such. Hosts were instructed to challenge guests from all political perspectives with equal rigor. Some high-profile anchors and executives chose to leave rather than adapt to the new approach. Their departures created openings that Musk filled with journalists from diverse backgrounds and ideological perspectives, including some who had been critical of CNN in the past. Maya Chen found herself unexpectedly promoted to executive producer of a new investigative unit. Her reputation for factual accuracy and fairness had caught the transition team's attention. "We want to invest in deep reporting," Burkle told her during her interview. "No more 5-minute segments on complex issues. Your team will have the resources and time to pursue stories thoroughly, regardless of who might be uncomfortable with the findings." The changes weren't without controversy. Media critics questioned whether Musk's version of unbiased news would subtly favor his worldview and business interests. Early programming decisions were scrutinized for signs of ideological shifts. Musk himself remained heavily involved, sometimes to the frustration of the professional journalists he had hired. He frequently weighed in on story selection and presentation through late-night emails and surprise visits to the newsroom. "He's a micromanager," complained one producer who soon departed. "He says he wants objective news, but what he really wants is news that fits his perspective." Others defended Musk's approach. "He's challenging us to examine our assumptions," argued a veteran correspondent who decided to stay. "That's uncomfortable but necessary." By the end of the first quarter, under Musk's ownership, CNN had lost 30% of its previous viewership, but gained a new, younger audience drawn to its innovative formats. The network's digital platform saw tremendous growth, particularly among users who described themselves as politically independent. 6 months into the Musk era, at CNN, a major political scandal erupted in Washington. Leaked documents suggested high-level corruption, involving figures from both major political parties. It was exactly the kind of story that would test CNN's new commitment to impartial reporting. Maya Chen's investigative team had been tracking elements of the story for weeks before the leaks made headlines. Now they had to decide how to present their findings in a way that adhered to Musk's vision, while serving the public interest. "We report everything we can verify, regardless of political fallout," Maya instructed her team. During a tense planning meeting, no selective emphasis, no bearing inconvenient facts. The resulting series of reports was comprehensive and damning to powerful figures across the political spectrum. FactStream provided viewers with document, sources and verification in real time as allegations were discussed. The coverage drew praise from media critics for its thoroughness, but also intense pressure from political operatives. Both Democratic and Republican press offices called demanding more favorable framing. Corporate advertisers threatened to pull spots. Social media campaigns attacked CNN journalists by name. In the midst of the controversy, Maya received a text message from Musk himself, holding up under pressure. "This is exactly what we need to be doing." The support bolstered her resolve, but challenges continued to mount. A particularly powerful senator threatened regulatory scrutiny of Musk's other businesses if CNN didn't reconsider its approach to the scandal coverage. When Maya brought this thread to Burkle's attention, he arranged an emergency meeting with Musk. The three gathered in a secure conference room at CNN Center to discuss their response. "We could tone it down," Burkle suggested. "Pragmatically, not abandon the story, but perhaps adjust the emphasis until some of this heat dissipates." Maya waited tensely for Musk's response. This was the moment of truth. With his commitment to journalistic integrity, when his other business interests were threatened. Musk stared out the window for a long moment, before turning back to them. "If we back down now, everything we've been building dies in the cradle. Double down, increase resources for Maya's team, and make it clear in our reporting that attempts have been made to pressure us." Maya felt a surge of professional respect for her new boss, despite their many differences. Perhaps his vision for CNN wasn't just talk after all. The network's unflinching coverage of the scandal continued for weeks, eventually leading to several high-profile resignations. In a congressional ethics investigation, CNN's ratings surged as viewers from across the political spectrum tuned in for development. The media analysis firm reported a surprising finding. For the first time in years, CNN was rated as trusted by significant percentages of both conservative and liberal viewers. The gap wasn't closed entirely, but it had narrowed dramatically. As CNN's transformation continued, Maya Chen found herself becoming an unlikely advocate for Musk's vision. Though she still disagreed with him on many issues, she couldn't deny that the network's journalism had grown stronger and more purposeful under his ownership. "It's not what I expected," she admitted. During a panel discussion at the Columbia Journalism School, there are legitimate concerns about billionaire ownership of media, those haven't disappeared. But I've seen firsthand how freedom from certain commercial pressures can lead to better reporting. Her comments drew criticism from former colleagues who had left CNN, accusing her of selling out to Musk's agenda. Meanwhile, journalists, who had long criticized CNN before the acquisition, found themselves reluctantly praising its new approach. The network's success attracted attention from unexpected quarters. A progressive media watchdog group that had initially condemned Musk's purchase published a report acknowledging improvements in CNN's factual accuracy and reduced use of sensationalism. Even more surprisingly, competing networks began quietly adopting elements of the CNN model. The fact stream technology was particularly influential, with viewers increasingly demanding similar, real-time verification from other news sources. 1 year after the acquisition, Musk invited Maya to join him for a private dinner at a small restaurant near CNN Center. She arrived to find him already seated at a corner table, reviewing something on his tablet. "Thank you for coming," he said. Setting the device aside, "I wanted to talk about the future." Over the next 2 hours, they discussed the network's evolution and challenges that remained. Maya was frank about her concerns, particularly about Musk's tendency to wade into editorial decisions that should remain independent. "You hired professionals for a reason," she told him sometimes. "The best thing you can do is let us do our jobs." To her surprise, Musk nodded thoughtfully. "Fair point. I struggle with letting go of things I care about. But I recognize the pattern." As the evening concluded, Musk revealed his real purpose for the meeting. "I'm considering additional media acquisitions." He said the CNN experiment has proven more successful than I anticipated. "There's an opportunity to extend this model." Maya's expression must have revealed her concern, because Musk quickly added, "Not to build a media empire for my benefit. Think of it as a new model for journalism. Technology-driven, transparent, resistant to both government and corporate pressure. I'd like you to help shape what comes next." She didn't immediately accept his offer, but neither did she refuse it outright. As Maya left the restaurant that night, she reflected on how dramatically her perspective had shifted in a year. The Elon Musk, who had terrified her and her colleagues with his acquisition announcement, had proven to be neither the savior nor the destroyer they had imagined. He was something more complicated, a flawed visionary whose methods were often questionable, but whose impact on their industry might ultimately prove beneficial. The question now was whether his CNN experiment was a genuine attempt to fix the media, or merely the first step in a more ambitious plan, whose true nature remained to be seen. CNN's transformation began attracting international attention during coverage of a major geopolitical crisis in Southeast Asia. The network's innovative approach to reporting complex international events, combining on-the-ground journalism with advanced data visualization and unprecedented transparency about sources, set it apart from competitors. World leaders took notice. During a press conference, the German chancellor specifically cited CNN's reporting as a model of clarity in a complicated situation. Even in countries with controlled media environments, CNN's broadcasts were being surreptitiously shared and discussed. Musk seized the opportunity to expand CNN's international presence. New bureaus were established in previously underserved regions. Local journalists were hired to provide authentic perspective rather than parachuting in Western correspondence during crises. The old model of international news was fundamentally colonial, Musk explained during the media industry conference. Western networks decided what mattered about Western countries and how those stories should be told. "We're inverting that paradigm." Maya Chen was tapped to oversee this international expansion, a role that required extensive travel and collaboration with journalists from diverse cultural contexts. The work was challenging but deeply fulfilling, as she helped build a truly global network. Not everyone welcomed CNN's growing influence. Authoritarian governments restricted access to the network's content. Rival media organizations accused Musk of using predatory pricing, subsidized by his other businesses, to undermine competition. When several European regulators announced investigations into CNN's business practices, Musk responded with characteristic defiance. On X, they feared true information flow more than anything else. "We will not back down." The controversy only intensified CNN's cultural impact. The network became a symbol in a larger debate about media independence. technological innovation, and the role of billionaires in shaping public discourse. Throughout this period, Maya observed Musk closely, trying to reconcile his public persona with the more nuanced individual she had come to know. His genuine passion for transforming media was undeniable, yet so was his ego and tendency toward messianic thinking. "Do you ever worry that we're becoming too identified with your personal brand?" she asked him during a strategy meeting. "The journalism should stand on its own." Musk considered this. "You're right. This can't be about me if it's going to last. The system needs to be stronger than any individual, including me." In response, he began deliberately stepping back from public association with CNN, declining interviews about the network, and redirecting questions to Maya and other executives. It was a surprising display of self-awareness from a man known for centering himself in his ventures. 18 months after the acquisition, CNN faced its greatest test when a whistleblower revealed troubling information about safety shortcuts at another Musk company. The document suggested potential danger to astronauts in a pattern of regulatory evasion. The story landed on Maya's desk on a Tuesday morning. Her immediate instinct was to pursue it aggressively, as she would any major story. But the implications were obvious. This wasn't just another corporate scandal. This was a direct challenge to CNN's independence. Under Musk's ownership, she called an emergency meeting with her senior editorial team. "If we bury this, everything we've built means nothing," she told them. "If we run it, we're potentially jeopardizing the network's future and our own careers." After intense discussion, they reached unanimous agreement. The story would receive the same thorough treatment as any other major investigation. They would verify the whistleblower's claims, seek comment from SpaceX and regulatory authorities, and present the findings without bias. What they couldn't predict was Musk's reaction. Maya requested an urgent meeting with him before the story was scheduled to air. She found him already aware of the situation. His communications team had alerted him to CNN's inquiries. "So this is where principle meets reality," Musk said as soon as Maya entered his office. His expression was unreadable. "We're pursuing a legitimate story with significant public interest," Maya responded, maintaining professional composure. Despite her inner tension, "We verified key claims and offered SpaceX ample opportunity to respond." "And if I asked you to kill the story?" Musk asked quietly. The question hung in the air between them. This was the moment Maya had feared since the beginning. The inevitable collision between journalistic ethics and ownership prerogative. "Then I would resign," she answered firmly, "along with most of the senior editorial staff, and our resignations would become the story." Instead, Musk held her gaze for what felt like an eternity, before breaking into a thin smile. "Good, that's exactly what should happen." He leaned back in his chair. "Run the story, no special treatment. This is precisely why I structured CNN, with editorial independence, even from me." Maya left the meeting, both relieved and unsettled. Had this been a test, or had Musk genuinely considered intervening? Before choosing the principal path, the SpaceX investigation aired the following week. It was meticulously researched, fair in its presentation, and damning in its conclusions. The network even included a disclosure statement at the beginning and end of each segment, acknowledging Musk's ownership of both CNN and SpaceX. Public reaction was intense. SpaceX stock dropped 17% in 2 days. Regulatory agencies announced formal investigations. Media critics wrote extensively about the unprecedented situation of a news network investigating its owner's company. Musk himself maintained public silence about the coverage, neither defending SpaceX nor praising CNN's journalism. His only comment came through a brief statement from his office. CNN's editorial decisions are made independently by its journalistic leadership. Behind the scenes, however, Maya knew that the SpaceX story had triggered a personal crisis for Musk. His vision for media reform was colliding with his role as a business leader. The principles he had championed were now being applied to his own conduct. 3 years after Elon Musk's shocking announcement, CNN had evolved into something few had predicted. It wasn't the propaganda outlet his critics had feared, nor was it the partisan counterweight his supporters had hoped for. Instead, it had become a news organization, defined by technological innovation, transparency, and a fierce commitment to factual reporting. The network's ratings had stabilized, at levels lower than its historical peak, but with a more diverse audience. Its digital platforms had exploded in popularity, particularly among younger news consumers. Most significantly, trust measures showed CNN had achieved something remarkable. In a polarized era, credibility. Across the political spectrum, other media organizations had adapted to compete. Adopting similar technologies and transparency practices, the industry was gradually transforming. Not through regulation or public pressure, but through market forces driven by a new consumer demand for verifiable information. Maya Chen, now CNN's global editor-in-chief, found herself reflecting on this journey during the commencement address at her alma mater's journalism school. 3 years ago, I nearly resigned when I learned Elon Musk was acquiring CNN. She told the graduating students, I was certain it meant the end of everything I valued about journalism. I couldn't have been more wrong. She paused, carefully considering her next words. That doesn't mean billionaire ownership of media is inherently good. It doesn't mean Elon Musk has been a perfect steward. We've had profound disagreements. His involvement has sometimes been intrusive, and his public statements occasionally undermine our work. But I've learned that intentions matter. And his intention, to create a more honest news ecosystem, aligned with journalists' core mission, in ways I didn't initially recognize. After the ceremony, Maya checked her phone to find a message from Musk. It was brief, typical of his communication style. Saw your speech, thank you for your honesty. Dinner next week to discuss what comes next. She smiled as she typed her reply. There would always be tension between them. The natural friction between a journalist, skepticism, and a visionary certainty. But out of that tension had emerged something valuable. Not perfect, but perhaps necessary, for an information ecosystem that had lost its way. As Maya walked across the campus where her journalistic journey had begun, she reflected on the improbable partnership that had shaped the last 3 years of her life. Elon Musk had promised to fix the media, one network at a time. He hadn't quite achieved that lofty goal, but he had disrupted the status quo, challenged entrenched practices, and created space for something new to emerge. The true test would be whether this new model could outlast its creator's involvement, whether the systems Musk had built were sturdier than the personality that had conceived them. Only time would tell if CNN's transformation represented a lasting evolution in media, or simply another chapter in the complex legacy of a controversial figure who had made a career of reimagining industries. For now at least, the experiment continued. And that, Maya thought, as she looked toward an uncertain but hopeful future, was a story worth following.